again, and I got myself a couple of more of these ATVs. That's the Aero ATV from Final Faction. And if you remember from the live stream that I did, if you watched that, the fairly long live stream that I did on all the figures that I got from that line on that day, I really enjoyed this vehicle. And I bought 2 of them that day, and then I bought 2 more the other day, and then I bought 2 more today. So now I have 6 of these altogether. It's a fairly inexpensive, but fairly fun vehicle. You know, I did not mind plunking down $1 for each one. And I will likely buy more of these in the future. You know, I was thinking for $1 a piece, I could probably afford to buy one for every single member of the G.I. Joe team. Yeah, that's how cheap these are. So, but not only that, but I'd also found the Aero ATV weapons and armor set. So now I can arm these puppies up. So I mainly wanted to talk a little bit about the weapons and armor set, but since I bought some more of these anyway, I figured I'd go ahead and put one together on camera here. It doesn't take that long. And I know a lot of you probably don't have time to watch a 45-minute live stream and wait for me to talk about all these action figures just to get to me talking about this Aero ATV. So I decided, you know, it'd probably be a good idea just to do a bespoke video about that. So here's the engine and the seat, and here is the chassis of the vehicle, and here's one of the headlights that went rolling away. I lost one of the headlights on one of the ones that I built the other day. There's all 4 wheels. They're hollow, of course, because this is a cheaply made vehicle. But it's, I think, of decent quality for such a cheaply made vehicle. I think that it's probably about as good as you could expect a vehicle to be when you pay $1 for it. You know, it's maybe even a little bit better. Although there is a little bit of paint gloop on this one headlight. One headlight! Great, now I'm going to get charged for music rights. That song just popped into my head. You know, I remember when Bob Dylan went to the hospital, and it would have been around like, you know, the late 90s or so, and they did this thing on MTV News. They had like an MTV News special, you know, report kind of thing, and it was Jacob Dylan's father rushed to the hospital. I'm just like, really? Jacob Dylan's father? That's how we're going to describe him? That's like describing, you know, that's like saying like Frank Stallone's brother. Yeah, nobody says Frank Stallone's brother. They say Sylvester Stallone. Bob Dylan, man, that guy's a legendary guy. You know, he wrote a lot of great songs that other people sang. He's an alright singer, but I think he's a better songwriter than he's a singer. So you can see, like, I snapped in, this is the steering column, and on one of the ones I bought, the steering column refused to plug in properly, so I wound up just filling the hole with super glue and plugging it in. But that's the only one I had a problem with. I think it was just something with that particular one. So then we put together the roll bar. There we go. And that snaps together at the back. And then we put the top part of the roll bar on to the top, obviously. There's instructions that come with it, but it's fairly self-explanatory. Once you've been through the instructions, you know, you can put it together yourself pretty easily. You know, you can maybe even put it together easily without looking at the instructions once. It's that simple. But yeah, so we put the roll bar together, and then we can snap the roll bar onto Let's see what I'm doing on the camera so I know that you can see it at home. So then we plug in, there's, you know, little tabs and slots. and you can plug in the roll bar to the chassis of the vehicle. And they describe this as an aero crash bar and roll cage. But, you know, it's just a big old roll bar that will keep your action figures safe as they drive this vehicle. Okay. And I grabbed some action figures to bring with me so we can put them in the vehicle. Or at least put one of them in the vehicle because it's a one-man vehicle. It does have the pegs on the back where you can have a character stand, but it's made for the Final Faction figures, and I think the peg holes are a little too big for most modern 3 3/4 inch figures. Like maybe like a Chat May or something like that might be fine, but I want to say the Marauder figures that I mainly like to use, I want to say that their foot peg holes are a little bit more small. This came loose. The engine and the seat, I must have looked at it funny. Come on, click in there. I've been bragging on you, so don't start messing up now. It might not be a good idea or a bad idea to go ahead and glue the seat and the engine on, since they're both kind of like styrene plastic, and it would hold together pretty well if you use some super glue. It doesn't tend to pop off very often, but it did that time, and that was annoying. And it popped off again when I kind of lightly pulled on it, so that might be something I wind up doing with this one. Since it is an inexpensively, I'm just going to say cheap, even though I don't mean it as a pejorative, but it's a vehicle that I paid $1 for. What else do you expect? But since it is as inexpensive as it is, there are occasionally some quality control issues, like what I said, like how I could barely get the steering column to stay in on that one. And you can see this one's in here like nice and sturdy now, but the seat keeps wanting to pop out. There. I think I have it in now. Hopefully at least in enough that it'll stay in for the remainder of this video, because I think I have all the pegs plugged in. It seems like every time I plugged one in, another one would snap out. And then I got to put on this one headlight, and then it's put together. So this is how the vehicle is supposed to be put together when you buy it by itself. And as you see, it's a nice little vehicle, and we'll use Flint. This is the Flint that I made with Marauder Task Force parts, and it is based on his appearance in the Sunbow animated cartoon of G.I. Joe. So that's why he's got a green shirt and a blue beret. His beret on the cartoon is kind of a grayish blue, or kind of a bluish gray. And as I was looking at the Marauder parts, you know, I kind of had to pick between a blue beret or a gray beret, and I decided the blue beret looked a little closer to how I remembered it being on the cartoon anyway. And besides, that one already had like a red flash on his hat, whereas the other one had a blue flash. I'm sorry, it was a black flash on the gray beret, and he had a red flash on his beret in the show. So I figured, well, you know, that'll probably be accurate enough, I think. So yeah, you can see, just kind of slide them into the roll cage. And like I said in my previous video about it, the Marauder figures fit in there pretty well. And you could probably fit whatever kind of 3 3/4 inch figure in there you want to, whether it's, you know, Star Wars or Hasbro's Retro Collection, old O-Ring G.I. Joes, 25th anniversary G.I. Joes, 50th anniversary G.I. Joe, any of the ones with the modern construction. Old school O-Rings will probably fit in there just fine. New sculpt O-Rings would probably fit in there just fine, I would imagine. You could use these for Marvel Universe, or the those 5-point of articulation Marvel figures would probably fit pretty well in there that they make nowadays. The Spin Master DC figures. I haven't tried really anything in here except for Marauder, but I figured most of those would probably work pretty well. It's about the right scale. So, now that we've been through this again, and anybody who missed my previous video should be up to speed on what this particular vehicle is, a bargain for the price of $1. Now we can get into the meat and potatoes of this video. The main reason I wanted to make this video in the first place is to talk about the armor kit. And you can see, like with the ATV, everything comes in a little baggie there. And there is an instruction sheet. There's the instruction sheet. And it lists everything in there. You've got 2 engine guards, a barricade bumper, a deflector, a Gatling blaster, and automatic artillery guns. And it's got on here where you can shows how to attach all these various pieces onto the vehicle. Now you could put whatever accessories you want in here. So if you feel like maybe it's a little overkill to put, you know, the big Gatling guns and the 2 side guns on there, and you'd rather just put, like, you know, 1 set of the guns, you can do that. Or, you know, if you want one that doesn't have all the heavy armor on it, but still has the guns, you can do that. Or if you want to just have the heavy armor and no guns, you can do that. Maybe you just want to put some of the armor on. It's nice that it gives you the options. So here we go. That's going to be the top guns, which are called Gatling guns, but they look more like lasers to me. And then these definitely look more like machine guns with clips on them. And you can see all of these have handles, so, you know, characters could probably hold these by the handles. You know, like this one even could be one that, like, you know, you could unplug from the vehicle and have a character just carry it around like a gun. Like, say the vehicle crashed, they could grab this for some extra weaponry when they're marching back to the base or whatever. Dang, this bumper's a lot bigger than I expected it was going to be. And it's got like a winch on it. We'll get into that in a minute. And there's the, what did they call this? The deflector. That's going to go like on the hood of the vehicle. I call it a hood, but it doesn't really cover the engine. And then the 2 engine guards. So you got 2 engine guards, barricade bumper, deflector, Gatling blaster. Well, it does say Gatling blaster, so, but I don't see where the Gatling is. I just see the blaster. And automatic artillery guns. So let's put these together. It says first to put the engine guards on there. So I guess I'll do that first. And it looks like it should clip onto the roll cage. Hopefully it'll be fairly easy to do that. Looks like I've got it lined up about right, and you just got to click it on there. There we go. Hopefully I can get it to click on and it'll stay on there, since I haven't really tried these yet. But it looks like there's 4 different areas where it clips on. One is here. I'll just use this one because you can see it a little easier. So there's 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And these 2 clip on here and here. This one should clip on right about here, and this one should clip on right about here. So I'm thinking it might have been easier if I'd have assembled it all together, like actually put these on here before I put the roll cage onto the vehicle, because I'm having to reach in between the engine and the roll cage, and my large adult fingers, it's a little bit of a tight fit. It's probably something a little kid could actually do a little bit easier because their fingers would be tinier. So get these on here as best as we can. So there we go. Got that on there. Both of those pieces. I think this is going to be a much more substantial vehicle once I get all these parts put on here. So then the next part it tells us to put on here is the Barricade Bumper, and that's this piece, which, as I noted before, is a much larger and more substantial piece than I expected it would be. It's got a little bit of a hollow space down here at the bottom, so that's how we know it's the bottom. And there's also some copyright information here, which says, if I can read it, Greenbrier International, and then it's got like a big long number, and it says made in China. So if you're wondering where this was made, that's where it was made. Okay, so this is supposed to fit the two clasps here are supposed to go around the two tabs that plug in at the front of the vehicle, and they're supposed to attach onto these two posts, which is right where the arrowhead would meet the rest of the bumper. So there we go, and it just clips on like that. And that seems to be the only place where it clips on, and it's not clipping on very tightly, unfortunately. So that's a part that I figure is going to get knocked off fairly easily. And unfortunately, because of the type of plastic that this is made from, it's more like what I call sort of the waxy plastic. I don't think it would glue very well either, which is a shame because it's a really cool looking piece, and I wish it stayed on a little bit better. But these clasps, they're just a little bit loose. They don't quite want to stay on there as well, and that's the only place where they clasp. So it would be nice if they clasped in one other area, because it really does improve the look of the vehicle, I think. You can see that on this one wheel isn't quite meeting the ground right, which is a problem that I've noticed, but it still rolls really nicely. So, alright, so next we want to put on this piece, the deflector, and that's going to snap right over the arrow in the roll cage. What did they refer to that as again on the instructions? The arrow crash bar. So this deflector is going to add a little more armor to the crash bar. And you can see it's got 3 clasps. One goes here, and then one goes here, and then one goes here. So we'll just clasp that right on. Hopefully it'll go on fairly easily. This seems to be more of a styrene kind of plastic. It might be, yeah, I think it's a little bit more of a styrene kind of plastic. I wish they'd made this one out of that, because then I could have glued it better. But whatever. Anybody from, what's the name of this toy company again? Imported by Importe. It did have the toy company name on here. Where is it? It's probably not even really a toy company. It's probably a company that makes a lot of cheap crap that they sell at the dollar store, and they just happened to decide they wanted to make some toys. And I'm glad they did, because like I said, I like these. So, you know, I'm going to take this off for now, because I think that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to clamp this on here. And it's probably just going to fall off anyway, because like I said, they didn't do a very good job making that so it could clamp on. It's too loose. And again, this is something where, like, I think a small child would probably actually have an easier time doing this, because they have tiny fingers that could fit in between these better. If you're an adult and you're wanting to put these together for your child or for your own personal collection like I am, I would advise that if you get the armor set at the same time that you get the ATV, go ahead and put these armor pieces on as you're building the vehicle before you put the roll cage onto the vehicle, because it will make it easier. I'm going to have to figure out some way to get this to attach on a little more permanently. So this part is the most disappointing part, because it's just not wanting to stay on there very well, just due to the type of plastic and the fact that it does not have a very tight grip on this on these 2 poles that it's supposed to clamp onto. It doesn't actually like clamp. It just kind of, you know, fits around it, but it doesn't have any kind of like tension or want to stay at all. So that part is disappointing. Everything else as far as the armor goes on this vehicle has been pretty cool. So I think I got it. No. I've got a little too optimistic there, I guess. So I can get it to clip on there, but it's just not a very tight fit. And you can see it's very easily, you know, I'm not hardly putting any effort into this at all. And in fact, if I turn it upside down, it'll probably fall on its own. See this wobble back and forth. Can you see that? I can definitely feel it wobbling. But it looks cool. It just doesn't stay on there very well, so that's disappointing. So lastly, let's go ahead and put these guns on here. And where did the other gun go? Did one of you cats run off with it? There it is. It must have got stuck to the... There's adhesive on the bags that seals them shut, and it must have got caught on there. So these peg holes are not the same size, and if you go to put this in here, it's not going to fit. So it definitely is just supposed to go in these side holes, and that would be the two, God, what do they call these again? That's the two automatic artillery guns, and then the Gatling blaster goes back here. So go ahead and stick those in there. And this one doesn't want to go all the way. That's what she said. But you can turn those, and that's pretty cool. So, and then last but not least, we got the Gatling blaster, which will go in here. And that is a tight fit. Now this is styrene plastic, and that means that this piece here, the sight, that's going to be delicate. And that's unfortunate because that's right where you want to put pressure on to put this thing in, and it's actually a pretty tight fit. So try to kind of pinch it in your fingers like that and try not to touch this sight, because otherwise that's going to wind up breaking right off, because that's a very thin piece you can see there, and it's just like, if I can show you, it's just, this is very delicate. That's going to be very delicate. So I would imagine if you bought this for a kid and he's rolling it around in the front yard and having it smash into rocks and having all kinds of fun with it, first of all, this thing's going to come off, and second of all, this part's going to break off here. Now, I like the fact that it gives you some options as far as like putting guns on here, but the unfortunate part is these guns are going to be in the way of these guns. So like if he's firing straight ahead, he's going to want to make sure he's got this exactly in between these two guns, and he's going to want to stop firing if he turns slightly one way or the other. So I might leave these guns off when I build the rest of these, and just, yep, see there, the bumper fell off. Just leave the Gatling blasters, because those are the ones that I like best anyway. And I'm figuring that'll be better to stand a figure at the back. But we're about to look into that. So first, now that I've got this put together, let's put Flint back in the vehicle. And I was talking about on the last video I did about these that, like, you know, you could probably squeeze Marauder hands around the grips on the steering column, but I've been just kind of like setting the hands on there like that, and that usually gives you enough tension to help hold the figure into the vehicle. You can see as much as I rattle this thing around, he ain't falling out. I'd be more worried about this bumper falling off than anything else. I promised earlier I'd talk a little bit about this bumper, like the detail on it, and I mean, it's not quite up to like Hasbro standards or anything like that, but you can see there's a chain and a winch on there, and I really like that. So it just gives it a little bit extra verisimilitude. Like I said, I really like the sculpting of this bumper. I just wish it fit onto the vehicle better. And if the toy company's watching and they do a second run of this, and they just happen to be watching this video, I would suggest like going back to the drawing board about how this bumper attaches to the vehicle and trying to find a way to get that on there a little bit more sturdy. So what I'm going to do, since I got Beachhead here, Beachhead was the pilot last time that I talked about this vehicle, is I'm going to try to put him on the back here and have him manning the guns. Now, as I mentioned, I think these peg holes are a little bit too big for these feet, but I might be able to squeeze it on there. And if not, you know, it seems like to me, like, since this is styrene plastic, you should be able to glue a stand on here that would fit a little bit better with these Marauder feet, or any other kind of feet that might be too big, or the peg holes might be too small for these big pegs. These feel like more like old G.I. Joes or Star Wars size pegs. Or if you heated up the feet, I bet that could allow you to stretch up the plastic enough that it could fit on there. So instead, since I'm having a hard time with that, I'm just going to put Beachhead's hands so that they're gripping the guns here. And hopefully that'll be enough to hold them on, since the hands will grip the guns. And yeah, you got to stretch the hands out a little bit, but you got to do those for like the guns that are actually made to fit in these figures a lot of the times. So that's not a big deal. I'm pretty sure that they should grip just fine. Yeah, sure they do. And then you can still have them stand back here. It's just, you know, you're going to have a time trying to get the pegs to go in these holes. So, but if you got like some of the stands that Marauder actually makes, like some of those black stands that are supposed to connect together, I forget what they call those, you could probably glue one of those on here, and then you could have a peg that he could hold on to. But as you can see, just having him grip the guns here, that's got him on here fine. So just adding these guns to this vehicle, I've turned it from a one-man vehicle into a two-man vehicle. So then you can have two G.I. Joes out on the mission, you know, in this little recon vehicle, you know. Imagine that the Joes, you got Flint and you got Beachhead, and they sneak on to Cobra Island very quietly in the night, very silently, in like an inflatable raft. And then they deflate the raft when they get on the beach and they bury it. And they have these crates with the parts in there. They can assemble the vehicle right there on the beach, because it's a fairly easy vehicle to assemble. And then they can be patrolling around through the jungle in this recon vehicle. Now that I got all the stuff on there, it's weighted down enough that all the wheels seem to be rolling. So that's pretty cool. So all in all, this whole vehicle cost me like $2. So that is a bargain for me as far as a vehicle that can hold 3 3/4 inch action figures. Now, you've seen me put it together, and it definitely has its problems. And it's definitely, like I said, with no pejorative, it's an inexpensively made vehicle. So it does have some issues to it. But, you know, it's one of those things where you kind of get what you pay for. And, you know, to me, none of the issues are really deal breakers. And I really liked the vehicle just when it was an ATV by itself. And I think I like it a little bit more now that I fancied it up a bit. So this definitely gets a recommend from me for anybody who's a fan of 3 3/4 inch military figures especially. But you could probably use this for about any kind of character. Like, you know, you could put Star Wars characters into it or whatever, and it would probably work just fine. Granted, they don't have many wheeled vehicles in Star Wars. It's like land speeders and things like that. But if you're a little kid, you're not going to care. So, you know, if you get a kid who likes whatever 3 3/4 inch vehicles, like, you know, Batman or something like that even, you know, this is an excellent stocking stuffer. A little something to, you know, I spent $2 on this whole vehicle, and I think it's a deal. And just $2 to, you know, put a little something extra in your kid's stocking. This is something I think that most kids would be really happy with. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I've got some more action figure reviews on the way that I'm probably going to film in a little bit, so I'll probably still be wearing the same shirt again. I might change shirts, I don't know. So I think I wore this shirt last week when I was doing some stuff. I promise that I've changed the shirt since it's been washed and everything. It's got a stain on it that don't want to come out, but maybe it'll come out one day. I don't know. Maybe I should use some, what do they call the stick thing that you run over it, like I don't remember the name of it, like what was it, spray and wash stick or something? Whatever. Anyway, this has been a 30-minute video, so I'm going to bring it to an end now. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Tell me what you think of the Final Faction Aero ATV. Are you planning on picking this up? Do you already have one? Are you like me and you actually have like a small, faction of these already? You've got like 6 of them that you've bought because they're just so addictive. I mean, how can you resist? It's like a pretty cool vehicle for $1, $2 if you want to, gussy it up like I did with this one. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.